Oh, hi there. Welcome to Shogi in the West, an English language podcast for active Shogi players and Shogi learners around the world. In this podcast, we focus on the topics and the people that matter to those of us outside Japan trying to find our way in the game. And before I start today's show, I'd like to make the usual public service announcement asking for volunteers to be interviewed. If you're interested in being a guest, please contact me and let's get recording. You can contact me on Shogi Harbor Discord. You can contact me on Lee Shogi. You can contact me through email, shogidad81@gmail.com. You can contact me on the YouTube comments or in the Twitch comments. While I love the solo episodes, and I really do enjoy these, I think the interview episodes are special since it's a chance to get a sense of how Shogi is evolving around the world in a way. And it's my chance to hear the thoughts of other players besides my own thoughts. You don't worry about skill level or experience. If you have thoughts on Shogi, I'd love to hear from you. All right, so with that out of the way, when this episode releases, it will be Thanksgiving week here in the United States. And I thought, what better way to celebrate than to think about and give thanks for those things in the Shogi world that I feel particularly grateful for. There are a lot of things, but these are obviously the ones that I feel particularly grateful for. These sorts of topics are a bit terrifying for me. They're fraught with peril because I know that once the show goes live, the instant the show goes live, I will remember something I should have mentioned, and I'll feel terrible and ridiculous about neglecting it. But that is the risk I take for my craft. And I'm willing to put myself at risk. My apologies and my thanks to anything or anyone that I don't explicitly bring up today, because I'm sure I'm forgetting something. But anyway, I am going to list these 10 in no particular order. I am grateful for all of them. So again, no order. So let's get started with the first thing I'm feeling grateful for and thankful for this Thanksgiving holiday season here in the United States. I have an entire podcast dedicated to this one, so I won't spend too much time on it here. But I feel it has to be mentioned. And it is, drumroll please, Kume-san and Shogi Club 24. Shogi Club 24, as I've talked about in the past, at length, has been serving the Shogi community for 27 years at this point. Recording this November 2025. It's late November. And it will be shutting down at the end of this year on December 31st, 2025. It's a site that manages to capture, for me, the experience, the true experience of playing club games over the board, unlike anywhere else. And I am truly going to miss it. It's a real shame that Kume-san wasn't able to grow or transition the site instead of shutting it down. But regardless, 27 years of hard work is beyond admirable. And I am just so thankful for it to have been part of it at all. While starting off on the topic of Shogi services and speaking, of the Shogi Club 24 transition, I'll mention the next Shogi thing that I'm grateful for. And Atari is in the corner of my eye. My cat, she went upstairs, and now she's just sitting there next to a door. I'm not going to get up and open it. It's Shogi Wars. This is the service that, let's just say, it has its share of detractors due to, among other things, the blitz and bullet only time controls. The Kishin, air quotes, paid cheating monetization system, and the fact that they limit unplayed players to only 3 games per day. But despite that, there's no denying that Shogi Wars has the largest player base, the best in terms of functioning, and fastest matchmaking. And it brings in the excitement for a game that could use some growth, as far as I'm concerned. Shogi could use some growth, and it can use an injection of excitement and interest. Heroes, the company behind Shogi Wars, continues to update and maintain the app, which is nice, with regular events, smaller quality of life improvements over time. The premium voices are still a joy for me to listen to and select from. And, the avatars and the in-game castle and tactics badges are just fantastic. It brings character to the game, and I think it makes it fun. For me, I can understand if people don't like them, but for me, it makes it fun, and it's a motivation to play and to try new things. And I say this as someone who plays the same opening every time. Sure, admittedly, there is a lot I wish Shogi Wars would do, and that they don't do. And I think there are far better ways to monetize than their choices, kind of as put on display by the chess world. But overall, Shogi Wars is an incredible resource. And thinking about this now, I think it's quite possible. Let me just think. Yeah, I'll say it's quite possible I wouldn't even be a Shogi streamer if Shogi Wars didn't exist. It's got a great rating system with a large stable of players and fast matchmaking that's ideal for getting in a lot of games without a lot of effort and machinations of trying to pick and choose opponents. And that is a perfect combination for streaming. And clearly I'm not alone here on this, because most of the Japanese live streamers seem to be exclusively playing on Shogi Wars. And it makes for a generally enjoyable viewing experience. Even if the Shogi Wars app is relatively lackluster, to say the least, and limited when compared to a full-on website. And the pieces and board, the board and the pieces that they use are weird. And there are virtually no customization options for it, unfortunately. So where if you'll watch a chess stream, or if you watch chess streams, you'll see there's a lot of nice variety in the basics, like how the board looks. I always remember, Daniel Naroditsky used I could visual. I don't remember what they call the piece set on chess.com, but he used that blue and sort of whitish ivory piece, boards, that checkerboard layout, which was different from, I think, what is her name? Rudolph. I can't remember her name, but I think she used like pink squares. And Eric Rosen, if I'm not mistaken, uses, even on chess.com, sort of the brown and tan with the C. Burnett pieces on Lee Chess, and the pieces that look similar to those pieces on chess.com. So it's like every streamer has their kind of look and feel, and you get a little variety. Shogi Wars, you can't choose anything about the board and almost nothing about the pieces effectively, which is unfortunate. But they are doing good work, and while there's still mystery around this, it seems like they might, fingers crossed, might be picking up the Shogi Club 24 torch and bringing in some better time controls using Shogi Club 24's model for more thoughtful games of Shogi. Everything they have right now, everything that Shogi Wars has right now, 10 minutes, 3 minutes, and 10-second Byoyomi, is at slowest considered blitz or bullet. And I just don't think that's enough. They've already added some very light integration with Shogi Club 24's records, and they've added a beautiful Kume-san tribute avatar if you connect your account to Shogi Club 24. So I'm very optimistic, and I am very thankful for Shogi Wars. So thank you. Again, these things I'm listing today are in no particular order, and people might think this is a weird one. It's understandably they might think this is a bit of a weird one, but I am going to say YouTube. It might be weird, to think or to think about and thank an uncaring, unfeeling, mega corporation backed service. But for me, as a small shogi creator, very small shogi creator, I'm extremely grateful for the generosity of the YouTube services. I have well over 500 live streams and a bunch of other podcasts and a bunch of other podcast episodes of Shogi in the West. This is the 20th, and some YouTube shorts. So across terabytes of videos that YouTube is just hosting for free. If I fall over at this desk like today or right now, interested shogi fans in the future will still be able to come across my channel a year from now and witness the trials and tribulations of an old guy trying to get good at this game, trying to promote the game. And you can laugh and cry with me as I'm dead and lying on the ground here a year from now. So while admittedly no service and no organization is perfect, I am massively thankful to YouTube. Next on the list, again in no order, is my favorite online equipment shop. This is Aoyama Gobanten. Anyone who knows me or has listened to some of these streams knows I am an absolute equipment nerd, and most of my shogi equipment comes from Aoyama Gobanten. I hope I'm pronouncing that even remotely close to how it is supposed to be. Aoyama Gobanten. Beautiful products, presented nicely and cleanly and honestly on their website with, quite frankly, reasonable prices and fast shipping. The shipping is expensive out of Japan, but that is the world we live in. I love the service. Aoyama-san himself is very friendly and easy to work with via email as an English speaker. And each item, like whether it's, I've made, I think, at least 3 or 4 separate orders from them, and I've gotten a bunch of little things, and some medium-sized things, some little things, but whether it's low-cost plastic pieces or, a delicate, special Kaya board, they are packaged immaculately and carefully. Opening up the package, I'm kind of a sucker for sort of proper product respect and things like that and care for the customer. So opening up a package, it's almost like a gift from Aoyama Gobanten, is a joy. It's really fun. It's like, almost like a gasp. Wow, this is so nice how they package this. It's so much care. It's just so much care. And, I especially as I get older, I'm getting more emotional about these things. I want to buy from people who care about these things, who care about me as a customer, and who care about their products. I love this shop. Needless to say, probably needless to say, but in case and it's probably obvious to anyone who knows anything about shogi, especially English language shogi content creators, I am not getting any special pricing or consideration for recommending this at all. I get nothing. He has no idea who I am besides just being a customer of his. I'm just a happy customer. As with anything else online I mention, as I say every week in this podcast, all links will be in the show notes. So check the show notes, whether you are listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube or listening in a podcast app. The link will be in the show notes. And I guess I'll take this chunk here to mention that the podcast is now available on all over as a podcast. For listening in your podcast app, it's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Index, everywhere else. The app that I use is Overcast, and you could search in there and find Shogi in the West. I still don't have a great icon or anything like that, no special artwork for the podcast itself, but all the episodes are there. They're waiting to be listened to, and I am going to do my best to release the podcasts on YouTube and to the podcast app at the same time, sort of worldwide at 5 minutes after midnight United States Pacific time. So just a little public service announcement there. If you would rather listen in a podcast app, this is now available. And please let me know if you do or if you like it. Please leave a 5-star review wherever you can. I think that matters for getting the podcast exposed a little more. So, if you've got a review, please leave a 5-star review and enjoy. So anyway, back to the topics of the things I'm thankful for, the 10 things I'm thankful for this Thanksgiving. Speaking of online sales, something else I'm grateful for is Nekomato and Madoka Kitao. Madoka Kitao is one of the giants in worldwide shogi promotion. I've talked about her before. And Nekomato is her publishing company and online shop. I don't know how involved she is in it on a day-to-day basis anymore, but it seems like she might be. Many of the very few shogi books available in the English language are published by Nekomato, her company. And for that alone, we should all be incredibly grateful. On top of that, the Nekomato shop makes these books and other shogi equipment available for purchase around the world. The shop itself is jank, and it's not modern at all in the worst possible ways. And it's not at all quick and easy to make even the most basic purchase there. It's unfortunate. But it is, in the end, worth the effort, I would say, to pick up their books and a simple Nekomato branded shogi clock or two. I've got like 3 of them, maybe even more. I've got 3 of these. They're as I've discussed in the podcast, they are rebranded DGTs. They're essentially DGTs with the Nekomato branding on it and a color scheme, and they are very, very easy and quick to set Byoyomi clocks that you can also play Kiramake with, which is the sudden death style. You can play with Byoyomi or without Byoyomi, and it is brain dead easy to set these clocks, and they're very durable, and they are light on batteries. They're great. They are great. So the next item on my list is a person, and I thought a lot about this prior to recording this, and I'm generally hesitant to list people because if I list one person and another person can feel, the other person who isn't mentioned can feel justly slighted a bit. But I feel I absolutely have to mention this one. I'll take the risk. And it's Koshiro Hama, also known as Shogi Brazil. He's got a YouTube channel, and I'll link it, of course. Anyone who has seen more than a handful of my streams has probably witnessed Koshiro's impact on my channel, and more importantly, on my shogi. He's not only one of, and I'll say it, and I say these things, I believe these things fully. I have no great way to add evidence of it, but I will say, he's one of the very best shogi players alive outside of Japan. And he's also a great shogi educator. And he has taught me and everyone else lucky enough to be watching the stream at the time so much through game reviews and discussions. My Edge Attack game, despite the fact that I have Edge Attack at a glance and I have gone through it and I'm going to be going through it again, my Edge Attack ability and my Edge Attack successes, they come directly from Koshiro. Um, a major approach in how I play Urashino Ryu. I'm thinking in particular of the middle, the third rank pawn push timing. It comes straight from Koshiro. There is my for my Furibisha, my Torizashi response to Furibisha comes that I play every game now. For the most part, every game other than against an early opposing rook, I have from Koshiro. I learned from Koshiro. He took the time out of his day to make a study on Lee Shogi, and he messaged me and said, here's something you can do, or he talked about it on stream, and I am using to this day. And I just had a game on 81 Dojo last week using this opening. It was against a 4-dan, and I should have won the game. I had a winning position in the game against a 4-dan, and I blew it with my end game with a slight miss in end game. I just slight oversight. I lost the game, I feel, but these are lessons that I'm getting that have put me in a place where I can compete with people. And there's also the famous, the infamous almost Koshiro trap, which I do probably at least these days. Even as I've continued to improve, I still get at least one or two of these per month. The quick trap of a rook against a quick Ishida, and it's straight from Koshiro. It's straight from him. I have actually, besides that, taken individual lessons from him as well. And he's a fantastic teacher and communicator and lover of the game. And he is, Koshiro is a huge reason why I was able to reach, my first big shogi goal. My first and really only big shogi goal that I had in terms of player is to hit Shodan on Shogi Wars in 10-minute games. I attribute so much of it to him. I don't think I would have done it. At least not by this point, I think, without him. Koshiro is a great ambassador for Shogi, for Shogi in the West in general. And in a genuinely kind and enthusiastic person. I am so grateful that I was able to meet him through Shogi, and I hope to be able to someday, meet in person and play some Shogi together. I know that the Pan America tournament is coming up next year in Brazil. That's something I am keenly aware of and keeping my eye on. And I can't say enough about Koshiro. He's got a great outlook. He's got a love of the game. He makes interesting shogi content. He promotes it. He's a legendary player in the Brazilian shogi scene, and he's helped me beyond belief. So thank you. That it's I don't want to get too emotional sometimes, but I really appreciate it. I really appreciate all these things. The next thing I'm grateful for this Thanksgiving is our podcast guests. And I'm sure some of you who are listening to this solo episode are thankful for the podcast guests as well, and wishing we had another podcast guest this week. I'm doing my best, but I realize that the podcast guests and interviews are great. But it's never easy to put yourself out there on the internet at all, especially these days, and especially just to speak to some inexperienced and clueless shogi podcaster buffoon like myself. But Shogi in the West's podcast guests did just that, and they've been amazing and interesting and compelling. I've said before that the interviews are my favorite episodes, and I'm not lying. And it's because of how great the guests have displayed their love of shogi and they've expressed their experiences in the shogi world. I am just so honored that people have volunteered to be interviewed on the show, and I hope that we can meet more guests over time. Like I've said before, we are low in the queue. We are very low, and I have not had someone offer in probably a month. So it's low. We are a small shogi world, and maybe people are not looking to talk too much about it, or maybe they feel they don't have too much to say. I will tell you, let's try. and just if you love shogi and you like talking about shogi, it's just fun to talk about shogi. So thank you to our guests, and now and I hope in the future. On the topic of discussion, the next entry on this sort of unordered list of things I'm grateful for this Thanksgiving is, drumroll please, Shogi Harbor Discord, created by legendary ladies professional Carolina Fortan. My French, I'm sure that's pronounced terribly, but the only Western shogi professional who's ever lived. This Discord is a place for English language shogi players to discuss the game, organize matches between people, and review games, just among other things. It's a Discord, and I probably don't need to elaborate any more on that, but it is a Discord. So as with any Discord, it can sometimes tend towards, let's just say, more juvenile behavior, and it can be overrun at times by people who care, let's just say, a bit more about getting attention than about discussing shogi, and there's a lot of that, and it seems like it's an increasing amount lately. But so I tend not to take part so much there. I lurk. I there are not many channels I follow, but I don't take part so much because of those reasons. But I am grateful that it exists as a home base for players to find each other and talk if they want. And I'm particularly grateful for the individual channels that Carolina Sensei provided to the very few of us shogi content creators like myself, so that we can have a slightly more manageable, maybe more higher signal to noise ratio, and cozy discussions for things that might not be in the general interest. I know, as someone on the Discord, sometimes when I'm posting in my channel, I just don't want to bother. I don't want to bother people in the other channels with things that I might think are interesting that other people might not think are interesting. And so I am so grateful for that, and I thank her for setting it up. And next on the list is an obvious one for anyone who's followed my streams. And to me, it's amazing to me that when I was going to build, when I was writing my list of things to talk about in this podcast, and the things that I'm grateful for, composing my list, this didn't come up until I had already had my list and was kind of ready to go. I don't know how it slipped my brain, and like I say, this is sort of why I'm so fearful that as soon as this episode publishes, I'm going to forget. I'm going to remember one or two or more things that I should have mentioned. But anyway, I'm glad I remembered it, because this is the Urashino Ryu channel. And again, links are in the show notes. This Japanese YouTube channel has been around for 8 years. The oldest videos in the channel appear to be from 8 years ago, and it follows the games without a video capture or anything like that. Even I wish it did, but it follows the games of a pure Urashino Ryu player, starting out at around the Shodan ranks, as it turns out. So around where I am now is where his channel started in the earliest videos, to 5 Dan, in 3-minute games in the latest videos. So at some point, he began releasing one new video every single day, 7 days a week, containing 2 or 3 quick 3-minute games. The I don't know what kind of production workflow he had, but so admirable. Every single day, 7 days a week, he was releasing these videos. And so watching these videos, watching the daily video, the most recent upload, became a daily ritual for me. Without exaggeration, this was a daily ritual for me. And it would be the last thing I do in the day. Taking them in as I lie in bed. I've got my phone. I'm on a podcast. You won't see me holding up, but I've got my phone lying above. I'm lying on my back just prior to going to sleep. So this was almost without fail the last thing I was watching before I go to sleep and thinking about. So a few minutes, and it was fantastic. I looked forward to that moment every single day. But a few months ago, he retired from the channel. And based on an auto translation of his going away video, it seems like a combination of sort of struggling to keep up, the pressures to keep up and improve after hitting 5 Dan, and some just thoughtless and nasty comments, YouTube comments. The combination of those things seems to have led to him losing sort of the fun of the game. And without drama, without exaggeration, I've talked about this before on stream, I took his decision very hard, and I think I actually still have some residual pain from it. It was, again, not to be dramatic, but it was like a close friend of mine died. And my shogi results fell off a cliff after that event. It was shortly, I had just promoted to Shodan. I remember, so I had just promoted to Shodan. He was sort of expressing something in one of his videos about not releasing, like he had something like that. And he had hinted that he was going to maybe be stopping. And I think I did like a $10 super chat or whatever, or super comment on YouTube on that, just saying, thank you. You've helped me achieve, my goal of Shodan, and, there are people out there that love your channel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, it's my shogi at that point fell off a cliff, and I really regressed. And it wasn't for some time, and I think I was just talking out loud on stream, where I realized, you know what? Because I was having yet another bad stream where I was playing poorly and not enjoying my games as much, and I realized, this has happened since Urshino Ryu channel stopped uploading videos. And, I thought about it and just kind of came to terms with it and decided I was going to start rewatching the channel from the beginning. I didn't know how many videos he had in the past. I knew that I came in at some, I came in not near the beginning of his channel. And sure enough, like I said, it's an 8-year-old channel and there's bazillion videos out there. So I am starting from the beginning and sort of repeating that same approach of watching nightly and just starting with those older videos. And, it's a little annoying to try to manage that. YouTube doesn't make that easy to go back and to go through every day one new video. But it's, I'm glad I decided to do that because I'm enjoying it. I'm loving watching how he's grown. I'm loving seeing him as a Shodan, seeing him make some of the same sorts of mistakes or find some of the same things that I've found. And it has helped a lot to bring my shogi enthusiasm back. And lately, maybe not this week on stream, but the past 2 weeks prior to that especially, I have been at my all-time, I think, highest skill level. You never know. I feel it's like, shogi is a game where you could play 10 games and, if your opponent just does the right stuff to play into what I want, you will feel like a god. You'll feel like you're great And that's how it was one day. And then the next day, every player played something that I struggle with, and I lost all my games. And I didn't feel as great. But regardless, Shogi is one of those games that has those ups and downs. You could feel like you're doing amazingly well. You could feel like you've finally cracked it, only to be brought back to earth the next day. But regardless, starting rewatching Urashino Ryu channel has brought so much of my shogi enthusiasm back, and I am so grateful for this channel. If I was to say, if someone were to say, what are your main reasons why you hit Shodan on Shogi Wars, or why you are the level you are, it would be Koshiro Hama, it would be Urashino Ryu, and it would be the next thing on my list. And so the next thing on my list is the East Bay Shogi Club and its leader, Turtwig. So, again, I don't want to mention people because that means I'm not mentioning other people. But without exaggeration, I will say that I would probably not be playing Shogi now if not for the East Bay Shogi Club. I've told this story before, so apologies if people have heard it on stream, but a little over 3 years ago, on a fated Saturday, I sent out a message to the Silicon Valley Shogi Club's Discord. And that Discord, the club, the Silicon Valley Shogi Club used to be called the South Bay Shogi Club. And it's a shogi club that I've gone to many times. And it's within 5 minutes of me. It's my local club. I don't go there so often lately for reasons I won't get into today. But anyway, on that day, I just sent a message saying, is anyone playing? Is anyone playing in person? And the club leader of the East Bay Shogi Club responded no, but that they meet every Sunday morning at a coffee shop in the East Bay. So, the East Bay is about an hour drive for me and more with traffic. So it's about 50 minutes to an hour driving out. It's like an hour 15 to an hour 30 driving back home. And driving back home, it's not so fun. But anyway, I cautiously and sort of nervously, headed out early the next morning, and the rest is history. When I got there, I got there intentionally a little late so that I wouldn't be the first to play. I just wanted to scope it out first, see what it looked like, and then make a game time decision as to whether or not I was going to play or even, talk to them. But, when I got there, I saw the leader playing with a small child who turned out to be an 8-year-old Japanese kid whose family was visiting the United States for, a semi-extended amount of time for work reasons. I don't think they were here for much more than a year, maybe not even a year. But, they were playing. And, I started watching. I introduced myself, and I met, the kid's mom was there and watching. And anyway, both players were better than I was at the time. This is 3 years ago or so. So I was probably 3 or 4 Q Shogi Wars, 10 minutes. I think probably about that. And, but they were not too much better such that the games couldn't be competitive. And I think that's a really nice thing. It's not required. It's not required by any means. So if you're thinking about going to a club and you are very new, don't think that you have to be competitive with people to make it enjoyable, because there's handicap, and it's also fun to play new people even if they're not competitive games. And you'll find that you get better quickly, so it's not even a big deal long term. But our games were all potentially competitive. I got blown out in some of them, and I loved watching their games. I kept coming back week after week, and it has been one of the biggest highlights of my shogi life. And those meetups, I have to say, are often sort of one of the highlights of my week. The coffee shop setting is great. I love coffee. They have great coffee at this place. It's called Hal's Office. And it's become a special place to me. The coffee is just great. And, the atmosphere is nice. The games are interesting. And it's just nice to spend time with nice people playing shogi. spending, no one's overbearing. They're just nice people who enjoy shogi, playing shogi. And after 6 months or so, the kid's family had to go back to Japan. So after that, for well over a year, I think, it was just the club leader and me playing 2 to 3 games per week. He records the games, and it was great. It was great. I really, even though it was just the two of us, we played basically the same openings every time. It's just been so fun, and it has helped me to grow. And eventually we started getting more members, and have had as many as 6 or 7 at this place. And these days, regularly, I'd say we have between 3 and 4. I hope these other players continue to enjoy the games and they still come out and play. Because shogi, once you get to a certain level, and I think one of the players especially is getting to that level where it's getting harder to improve. You start getting good. You start getting good, and it's harder to improve. And especially if the people you're playing are very strong, and not especially. I mean, it's easier to get better if you're playing the stronger players, but like it's easier to feel a bit demotivated, I think, where you lose all the time. And so, hopefully everyone sticks with it. One thing I've said in the past is that I think clubs can be sort of that glue, for lack of a better word, that keep people stuck. They keep people stuck in the shogi community and the shogi world. And this has definitely been the case for me. Definitely. The friendship and mutual enjoyment of playing shogi over the board on nice equipment in a pleasant setting with great coffee has enhanced my love of the game and, in a way, bound me to the game. So I think, like I said, it's a glue. Like, these clubs sort of bind you to the game. And without this club there for those first 6 months or so, as great as shogi is, I may not have even gotten to the point where I really see how great shogi is. I suspect I would have probably bounced off and moved on to another game, where it's easier to find players and easier to find learning material, and it's easier to find interesting content, and where the online features in sites are just flat out better. The online shogi world is not as great as the online world of almost any other game that I've ever seen. It's still as great as it is to have the sites we have. They are way behind the times in terms of, engaging, fun, interesting, just sites and places to play. So, yeah, it would. I honestly, I think I would not be playing shogi if I had not played at the East Bay Shogi Club for those first 6 months or so. So thank you. Thank you to the leader. Thank you to the club, everyone who's been members. And it's really special to me. So finally, I guess for the last thing here, I have to go sappy. I think I'm obligated to go sappy. And I am going to thank, on this Thanksgiving podcast, all the stream viewers and the podcast listeners, especially the channel supporters, whether via Twitch or Ko-fi or the Shogi Dad shop or YouTube, anywhere that people can show some sort of support. I really appreciate that. If there were no viewers, there would be no stream. If there were no listeners, there would be no podcast. It's simple. You all have made it truly a joy to play shogi every day. And you've inspired me to want to continue to do my small part in whatever it is I do. Trying I guess to bring in more excitement and more visibility to this great game, this legitimately great game. As you can probably imagine, though, it's not all smooth sailing in the shogi content creation world, and it can be difficult to feel like anything you do matters when there are so few people playing, and potentially so few people seeing your work, and even fewer seeing your work, engaging with it, liking it, commenting it, or chatting about it. So it's difficult. And then when you hit those inevitable plateaus or regressions in play, it becomes even more difficult to keep going on. But yeah. Many Shogi Club content creators, if you think about it, have come and gone, and probably for those reasons. It's probably for those reasons that they come and go, and not many last. And I honestly feel that that's where the channel supporters really come in. When someone shows their support for what I do with a Twitch sub or a Ko-fi donation or a t-shirt purchase, if someone goes out of their way to show that they care, it means a lot to me. As it shows that there are people out there who care and want to support this kind of work, and that I'm not just alone out there. So from the bottom of my heart, like to all the supporters, thank you. Truly. It means a lot. Even, just the smallest bit, it makes my day. It really does. Because like I said, this is not all smooth sailing, and sometimes you feel alone out there. Making a video, doing a stream, making a podcast, and sometimes seeing, maybe the numbers don't look so fantastic. So that's really where the supporters have propped me up and kept me going. So thank you. So anyway, I think that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you to everything and to everyone I've mentioned today, and to those sheepishly, that I'm surely missing, and I will be kicking myself later about. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday for people in the United States, and have a wonderful week to everyone else, regardless. Enjoy your shogi. Enjoy this game. There is so much to be grateful for in the shogi community and the shogi world. So let's do that. And thank you so much for listening to this podcast. And I will see you soon. Take care. Bye.